Story in the Sydney Morning Herald today, Hoops. I'm going to throw this over to you straight out of dummy half. The players want Peter V'landys out. This has shocked me.
Yeah, I must say, it caught me out of left field as well, Anthony, but apparently there's a big push on behind the scenes between some of the biggest names in the game. The reports are that Luke Keary and Daly Cherry Evans have been driving this and that they're not happy with the way that Peter V'landys has sprung the current crackdown in relation to high shots upon the game and upon the players. And so as a result, they've been ringing around asking about questions about the Constitution and how you can potentially overthrow the chairman, Kenty.
Yeah, I just think what a disgraceful thing after everything Peter V'landys did to save the game last year. The fact that this decision that they're all up in arms about is about nothing else other than their own protection and welfare. There is not a coin in it for the NRL. There's no other motive other than to protect the players. And yet the players, and Luke Keary, he is more vulnerable to concussions than most in this game. His next concussion could be his last. We've already seen his captain, Boyd Cordner, has still not played this season from concussions. We saw the other captain, Jake Friend, retire this season, mid-season, because of concussions. Luke Keary's been out for weeks in previous seasons because of concussions. Some suffered at training. This rule is for no other reason than the welfare of the players and for the players to sit, and this is the bit that I just can't get my head around, for the players to sit and say they don't like the fact that it was the process Peter V'landys went through where they were not consulted. Why are they complaining if they were going to arrive at the same destination anyway? Because there's no way you can justify it's just a small whack in the face. The fact is, a whack in the face is a whack in the face, and concussions come in all different types. You have, they call them micro concussions, and you have the blackout concussions, from blokes being unconscious on the field to the little white light to the feeling of deja vu again. That feeling of deja vu again, you talk to many players, Gordon, I'm sure you suffered that where you went in, your head got rattled a little bit, and you had this feeling, I've played this game before. That is what they call a micro concussion, and the science so far that we know of is that they are the most dangerous concussions to suffer. So there is a feeling that these are the ones we got to get out. So those ones that the players are now arguing is, mate, it was just, a high tackle, it wasn't intentional. What a ridiculous argument. Yeah. The brain doesn't know whether it was intentional or not. The fact is, you got whacked in the face. You might not be concussed, but they're trying to bring that down. Now, if players can actually, change the way they tackle, you fix this. The other absurdity of this
is it only two players, Paul?
Well, no, the Players Association are getting behind it, so they're getting involved. This is where they're getting a bit of muscle. But the other absurdity of this is that the players are saying that you can't bring it down overnight. You can't learn to re-tackle overnight, okay? That's one of their arguments, that they train like this, you can't change it overnight. Why then do they think being consulted on it would make any difference? What well, they're gonna argue for a quota. You give us 3 high shots a game, and then we'll, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then start charging. Like it's just a ridiculous idea. It just shows the immaturity of the playing group, the immaturity of the Rugby League Players Association, and for them to have the temerity now to go after the chairman who saved them so much last year, and just 12 months later they're rallying against him. I cannot believe they are so stupid and so immature to go down this track.
Another key element of it as well is, if you look at, it was introduced in Magic round 10. We saw send-offs, we saw sin bins. Like it was off the charts in terms of the number of those incidents that we saw being punished and penalised. And then the charge sheet would come out and we're seeing record numbers of charges. But here we are, we're only 3 weeks into it this weekend, and all of a sudden already we're starting to see the number of sin bins diminish rapidly. There hasn't been a send-off this weekend, and players are starting to adjust. So that's where I must say that the story did catch me by surprise. That players would be prepared to go behind the scenes like that to try and knife Peter V'landys, who essentially is the one who saved a lot of them last season.
Just take Peter out of it. If they want the rules changed, they all go in and sign a brand new contract now so that they will never come back at the game.
Yeah.
Ever come back at the game. So if the players want it to be, just write that I will
want it to
never
be
come
open
back and
sesame.
and I
But
will never sue the
the
game.
unfortunate part about that, Gordon.
So they wouldn't all be 100% on it.
Yeah, they wouldn't be. And the
They are.
unfortunate part, I don't look. In theory, it sounds great because you're calling the players bluff. But what that does is, if that's the game that you're going to allow to happen, and I don't know where we've arrived at this
But
state
they
where
wouldn't let it happen, Paul,
Well,
because they don't want that to happen.
yeah, that's true. And there'd be players who don't want to sign it, who would feel compelled to sign it because they want to play, and that's the issue. Look, I'm old enough to have covered this game from when all this high tackle, the way the game has evolved, was not part of it. But what we've done is, through weak administration for many, many years, is when the game began to move from basically shoulder in the tackle, hit and drive, to catch and wrestle, and many of these concussions are a result of that. We saw that Adrian Pazenko wrote a story in the Sun Herald last week saying that from the 6,000 tackles they'd studied, the irony being that most concussions come to the defender, and most are coming 3.5 times more are coming from the stand up catch and wrestle technique as opposed to the hit and drive technique. Now, we don't know how many differences there were as far as tackles in that sample were, but this catch and wrestle technique has been around the game now for about 15 years. I think the Roosters probably brought it, first ones to bring it in about 2002, so a little bit longer than 15 years. And the game has gone further and further down this track, and it's been unable to pull the players out of it. So now we've got this situation where when guys get clipped high, which was never tolerated in the game, and in the past years there was always a natural justice that took place. If you clipped a bloke high, your odds on that there'd be a blue after it, and if a bloke was going around and causing a bit of damage with it, someone on the opposition would sort him out at some point. Now, you can't punch and you can't fight, so that's disappeared. So now there's free reign. There's no consequence for these high tackles other than the game needs to step in and protect the players. But the game hasn't been doing that. So now we've got this mindset where the players actually say, you know what? We all do it. It's part of the game. It's not part of the game. It's never been part of the game. And yet now we've got this acceptance to it, that it's okay and it's normal. And I sympathise with the playing group right now because they weren't playing 15, 18, 19 years ago. This is all they know as a game. This is the only tackling style. So they think this is what rugby league is. But it's not what rugby league is. It's where the game allowed it to go. And the game didn't either have the intelligence or the courage to pull it up at some point in the last 15 years. And so we've got to this stage now where we now know far more than we did 15 years ago when it began, what the dangers of concussion are, the long-term ramifications of concussion, and what it can do to your welfare years down the track. And nobody wants to see that. You've only got to see a friend that you knew who is now drawing ducks on the wall and feeding them to understand that it's not that good.